Hello and welcome to Fluidity VFX. Today we are going to make glowing colorful water animation with flip fluids and Blender. Flip fluid is an add-on for Blender which you can buy from Blender Market, and you can see the link on the screen. So let's get started. I have opened a new file in Blender and I have a cube on the screen. I will scale it up. I will use this cube as a flip fluid domain because domain is responsible for creating fluids inside the flip fluid. So I have applied the flip fluid add-on, and now I am going to make it a domain, and you can see the cube is invisible, only you can see the outlines because it is a domain, flip fluid domain. And here you can see all the properties. So I will keep the resolution around 100. The more the resolution, the more high quality fluid will be generated. For commercial productions you may keep it on 500 to 1000, but I think it's very heavy simulation for computers. So I will preview around like 100, and then I need a fluid emitter. So an object from fluid can be emitted. I will create another cube and I will put it somewhere here inside the domain. I will scale it down because it's big, so big, something like this. And I will apply flip fluids on this second cube, and this second cube will act as inflow, means it will emit fluid inside this domain. So I want this fluid to emit fluid in this direction, which is, you can see, minus y, because this green arrow means plus y axis. So to emit fluid in the opposite direction we need minus y. So I will apply maybe around minus 5 as an experimenting value. Okay, so let's select the domain and bake the animation so we can see what's going on. And I can bake the animation, and if I play we can see the fluid has been emitted and is falling down. It will take a bit of time, like maybe 1 minute. Let it go and let's see. So I think let me correct the value for the water emitter. It's a bit fast, so because I don't want it to hit the walls of the domain. I just want it to be maybe I think minus 2.5, and I select the domain, I stop the baking, I reset, I bake it again. Maybe I can reduce the resolution to 60-70, but let it go on 100. It will just take more time. So I think that's good enough, because the water is falling down in the middle of the domain, and that's what I want. And our animation is around 250 frames. You can see here 250 frames. I think it should be enough for our animation. Let's adjust other properties of the fluids. I can stop the baking because now I know how my animation will look like. So I need to go to the fluid white water and enable white water simulation so you can have some bubbles. So after enabling white water simulation, I will go up into fluid display settings, and here I will enable spray bubble form and spray bubble form, this one and this one, and this icosphere will act as bubbles, foam and spray. I think this one is quite big, so I will bring the value to 0.001. Same for the bubbles, 0.001. These bubbles 0.001. And because render only is checked, so they will not appear here in the viewport, and I think that's good, because if we uncheck these and we run the simulation will be very heavy and your computer can get stuck. So just let it be checked. Then we need to create some materials for the white water or the bubbles and all those particles, but first we can bake the simulation to see what's going on, and let it go. And now you can see some particles have been generated, but we cannot still see them unless we apply some material on it. And I will be applying a glowing material, which is the emission material, so I can see these particles in the dark. While the simulation is baking, let's go and set some render settings. First of all, your renderer should be on cycles renderer. Then go to the world settings, world tab, and make the surface or environment of your file totally dark, so there is no light. Then I will create some materials, some glowing materials, light emitting materials for the particles like bubbles, foam, and another particle, I forgot the name. Anyways, so I will create a test object, a dummy object, which I actually don't need. So I will create a monkey. I just put it on the side because we actually don't need it for render, but I will apply some materials on this monkey. So material 1, and I will make it emission material, and I will create some random colors, some bright colors or light colors, it's up to you. And I will duplicate by pressing this plus sign. So this is second material, then I can change it to another color, duplicate it, and select different colors, keep duplicating. Minimum you need 3 colors, but I like to create more colors, so we can apply a different range of colors to our animation. So I have created 4-5 materials, some glowing materials which emit light in the dark. Now these materials are with this monkey Suzanne, so you can just hide this monkey because we actually don't need this, we just need the materials. This is the easiest way to create materials quickly, by duplicating. So I will hide this monkey called Suzanne. I will hide it from the viewport, and I will hide it for the rendering because I don't want it to get rendered. After that, I need a plane. I will create a plane from the create panel, and I will put it below my domain so it can act as a floor for my domain. Just below the water. Now let's check the baking, and I think baking is quite all right. If I try to see the rendered view, I cannot see what we want to create. It's very different. So I will come back to solid viewport shading, and then I will turn off the lamp or the light first of all, because we don't need this light. And I will select the domain. I will go back to the flip fluid properties of the domain, and I will go into the flip fluid materials, and flip fluid comes with preset materials. You can see all of them, like wax, red wine, blurred, caramel, chocolate, coffee. I will apply water material, which is clear water, and as we have created some glowing or light emitting materials, so we can see these are here. And a white water foam, I will apply maybe something like green. It's really up to you what color you apply. So yellow and pink. So you can apply any glowing or light emitting or emission materials which you created before to these 3 particles. If I try to see the rendered view, I cannot see any lighting, because if you remember, we have turned off. If you go to flip fluid surface, no, sorry, flip fluid display settings. Yeah, flip fluid display settings, you can see that render only, that we can see these particles when they are going to be really rendered finally. So I just uncheck this and I move my timeline somewhere else, and I can start seeing the glowing particles. So let me render it, because I think it's a lot of particles, and if I uncheck render only, file will be very heavy, and as I'm recording the tutorial, so let me bring it in the view in the middle, and let me set the camera. So I want this view to be the camera view, so I can press Ctrl Alt 0 on the numerical keypad, Alt Control 0 on Windows. So you can see camera has been set on the same view. My baking is still going on because I can see it's 185 frames done out of 250. So still baking is going on, doesn't matter. But good thing is I can still render it. So I can go to the render tab, and I can press render button. It will render what camera is looking at. So let's render and see. And fluid looks quite good. Even I'm baking it at 100 resolution. You can see resolution 100. The scene I showed you, which I created it at 250 resolution. But you can increase the resolution when you are done with everything and every setting, so that your computer doesn't get stuck, because more resolution means more processing power, and computer can sometimes really get stuck if you apply large resolution. And I can see yellowish and greenish particles inside. So you can see if I play this, I have my animation ready, and to render it I want to give you some tips. When you bake the final fluid, in the domain settings, if I select the domain cube, this one, you can keep it on 250, and there are some settings here in the flip fluid world, so it matches it with the real world size. In my example, I have used flip fluid scaling as 50 meters. So you can keep in mind that you can change this value. And one last thing, if you go to the render tab, you can use some light paths, and you can during render you can keep it on full global illumination. That will give you better rendering, and then you can render your animation as a movie or as pictures. So I think you know how to do the final rendering. So that's how I created this colorful illuminated, or you can say glowing water animation using Flip Fluid add-on with Blender. If you have any questions, you can leave in comments and I can definitely answer your any questions if you have. If you don't understand anything, you can also leave some comments, and please share whatever you create. You can share with me. I think you are going to create something better than me. And thank you very much. Thanks for watching.